Yo, it's King of the Ring Boxing, back again with a new video. Wow, what we witnessed last night was very shocking. And my question is Josh Warrington finished in the sport of boxing? So I'll tell you what I saw. I think from the first round we saw that Mauricio Lara was sort of catching Warrington with relative ease. I know Warrington's never been that type of guy to have like sort of defensive prowess or to, you know, be the type of guy to evade punches, if you get what I mean, using like slick movement and things like that. So that part wasn't surprising that he got caught, but what was surprising is the ease at which he was getting caught, and the fact that he was throwing and it wasn't sort of deterring Mauricio Lara. I think that was a very telling sign about how usually Warrington would deploy his sort of whirlwind tactic to overwhelm his opponent. But in this case, Mauricio Lara, who, looking at his record, has fought like what, Mexican barmen, orange pickers, like who has he actually fought of any substance? Like, he couldn't even overwhelm someone like that. And yeah, it's just Lara just kept pressing forward, pressing the action, and in round 4 or round 3 or 4, round 4 he dropped Warrington for the first time towards the end of the round, and Warrington just looked at 6s and 7s. I believe if that wasn't Warrington and it was someone else who wasn't as big of a name, that fight would have been stopped, and it really should have been stopped, because after that all Warrington took was a beating. Like I know it's sort of a cliche to say it put miles on the clock, but the sustained beating he took after round 4 or 3, whichever one that he got caught in and dropped, like, it was unnecessary, and I believe that his corner should have actually stopped it as well. But anyway, the fight carried on. I mean, there was 1 or 2 moments where it looked like, oh, Warrington's getting back into this, he's landed a good shot here and there, but Lara was controlling it. And that's another thing. Lara himself is extremely fucking slow. Like, it looked like he had a lot of power, but it also looked like he was very slow. So I was a bit bemused. Like, I know, as I said, Warrington doesn't seem to have the best defense anyway, and I don't expect that from him at this stage of his career. But when shots are being telegraphed like they were, like, he should have that. He should have the sort of the know-how to sort of at least avoid some of them. Do you see what I mean? So, is Josh Warrington finished? So, Josh Warrington is a fighter who relies a lot on his athleticism, and I think fighters who do rely on their athleticism, they can literally drop off a cliff like instantly, like overnight. Like, for example, we saw with Roy Jones Jr. Obviously not comparing Josh Warrington to Roy Jones Jr., just saying that Roy Jones was also another fighter who relied on his athleticism, and then overnight that just dropped off. Like, athleticism is something that can sort of just leave your body like instantly, whereas if you rely on more skills and ring IQ, that stays with you into the latter stages of your career. So a good example of that is Floyd Mayweather. He still had the ring IQ, still had the skills to sort of navigate around the ring, whereas those who rely on athleticism, it can literally just evaporate overnight. I think, did we see that in this fight against Mauricio Lara for Josh Warrington? I'm not too sure. Like, I don't want to jump the boat too early, but it did seem like he didn't look as sort of, as I said, he usually tries to overwhelm his opponent. Like, he didn't look as sort of ferocious, like the velocity wasn't there. It could be because he was inactive, but so have all the other fighters who have fought in this COVID period, or have had to go through this COVID period, have been inactive as well. So it's not really a sort of excuse that I'd like to give to Warrington, but I believe that we'll see in his next fight whether he's finished or not. But it did look like he's not the same ferocious fighter as we've seen, but it could have just been an off night. But as I've said, like, with fighters who rely on athleticism, like, that can go like overnight. As we saw with Roy Jones versus Antonio Tarver, like, it just went. Like, the once invincible Superman looked nothing like he did during his prime. So yeah, what do you guys think? Do you guys think that it was just an off night. Inactivity is to blame for Warrington's poor performance, or do you, like me, think that maybe, you know, his athleticism just gone overnight? I mean, he is in his 30s after all, so it's not like he's a young man. And yeah, it's just it was like, as I said, the surprising thing is that Josh was getting caught very easily, but he was getting caught very easily by a Mexican fighter who, yeah, he had a lot of power, it seemed like, but he was extremely slow. It's not like he was throwing his punches with any speed, and they were pretty much being telegraphed. So yeah, so ring IQ is something that maybe Warrington needs to work on. But yeah, let me know in the comments below, what did you think of the fight? How do you see the rematch playing out? Because there is a rematch clause, even though it wasn't a title fight. So do you think Warrington can redeem himself, or do you think that Mauricio Lara will repeat this result? It's King of the Ring Boxing. I'm out.